Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Doca podcast. Today we're joined by Coach Joe and Coach Scott. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey,
James Scott, how are you?
hanging in there, Joe. How are things on your end?
Just enjoying this beautiful weather outside.
There we go. Great start to 2021, mate.
Absolutely.
First podcast of 2021. Exciting, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully
absolutely.
many to come.
Yes. We got to get the ball rolling. We have some great guests and the kick off the new year. Couldn't do it any better with Scott Elliot.
I was gonna say, wait, let me know when the nice guests are coming.
There we go. Okay, well, to get started, if Coach Scott, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, personally, professionally?
So much to tell. It- you know, a little bit about myself. Let's see. I live here in Colchester, Connecticut, with my wife and 3 kids, and recently my 2 parents moved back in from Arizona. Both retired. They're living out west for a long period of time, but they've made the long trek back home. They wanted to be back on the East Coast, so we're a happy little family. We have a Saint Bernard, Callie, that hangs out with us, and we kind of go about our regular business here in Colchester. I teach in the town of Lebanon, the next town over, at the high school there, Lima Memorial. I've been a teacher in that district for the past 20 plus years. I've been the athletic director and um, high school PE teacher for about the past 15. And I've been assistant soccer coach with the varsity boys for the past 20 years. I've dabbled in the world of basketball, coaching varsity basketball for a while. I've also been an assistant coach in the baseball program, softball program, kind of a jack of all trades, doing as much as I possibly can to help the kids in Lebanon.
I think the better question would have been there, what don't you do, Scott? Being a
A
little
lot of people ask that question. One of the things that I learned at a very young age was to try and make yourself as marketable as possible and be able to do and contribute as much as possible with whatever it is that you choose to do. And that's something that I've taken to heart. I'm kind of that blue collar individual where I sit there and I'm going to get down in the trenches and get my hands dirty and do what I need to do to make sure that I can provide the program that I want to provide for my kids.
That's excellent. And I think we're going to touch on that a little later about your experience, your personality, and how that portrays onto your players. What do you see and want from your players? I think, so did you play soccer? When did you start watching it, coaching it? When did you start getting into it?
Yeah, I started at a young age, probably like most kids around the age of 4 is when somebody put a ball in front of me and said, here, go. Growing up in the town of Woodstock, which is in the northeast corner of the state, I was fortunate enough to be involved in recreational programs, premier programs, high school programs, whatever. I had an older brother that helped me a little bit where my parents kind of said, um, we're obviously two different ages, but we were close enough in age where they said, we're not going to go off in 2 different directions. You're going to play with your brother. We're going to do everything.
I think we got a little bit of technical difficulty.
Did. I got to snapshot the face there, though. Look at that freeze frame. He's back. We lost you for a minute, bud.
Yeah, I just got a message that said I was unstable there, but hopefully we'll figure out what I can do here. I think I'm on any Wi-Fi stuff. Welcome to living in.
So why?
He lives out in the woods, is what he's trying to say. It's a challenge for him out there to get some good running water, and if the creek is dry, he's not getting the running water. There's snow on the ground, he loses power, electricity, all that fun stuff.
So what I was trying to get at was, starting at a young age and having the ability to play up an age level because my brother was older, kind of afforded me the opportunity to play against competition, bigger, stronger, faster, all those things that we kind of attribute to quality soccer. And that's kind of where I got my background growing up playing in Woodstock and having the experience of playing with kids.
Okay, awesome. So, Joe, when did you cross paths with Scott? Was it earlier on or?
Well, he
I
did
suppose
just
that
mention Woodstock, and
for
I don't know
everyone
if we want to
listening right
rehash
now,
old
there's
high
a big
school
smile.
stories. I don't know if we want to rehash our old high school stories, but we did come across and meet on the field in high school. But we really start to get to know one another when I moved back to the area. I started coaching high school soccer. Scott obviously was an assistant coach at Lyman, but he was also head of our ECC board for the conference that I coached in, and our relationship developed from there. And then we started playing on, God, can we say it, an over 30 team together? We'll say a men's team together. And there was a group of coaches that played, and our relationship really, came about from playing and coaching against one another. And as years went on, I think there was a great deal of respect for one another. And and that kind of led me to really, inviting him to join us at Doca, knowing, his ability as a coach, his ability as an educator, really has a good rapport with the kids. It was a no-brainer. And obviously at that time, his girls were getting involved a little bit more with the program. And since, why stand on the sideline and watch, get out here and help us out. And you can be more of an impact on the field than off the field. And it was just a match made in heaven.
So with that in mind, Scott, was it an easy decision for you, based off your values, based off of what you're doing, to see a club like Doca and be inclined to get involved?
Yeah, the club itself was a no-brainer for sure. And as Joe alluded to, we kind of really developed and enhanced our relationship while we're playing on this men's league team, and really kind of understanding style of play. And as I'm sure many people will attest to, there are so many different styles and so many different ways to either coach or play or both. You kind of find that mix, and you find what programs are all about. And having had a background in the past with certain programs and certain coaches, not necessarily the ones that I coach with, but just seeing people in the coaching circles and how they conduct themselves, it was definitely a no-brainer. At first I was hesitant. I always kind of grew up when my daughters were born thinking that I don't want them to hear my voice all the time. I don't want them to think that there's only one way to play. There needs to be diversity in their game and who they are as individuals. And I kept telling Joe, as I was on the sideline when we first started, that I didn't want to coach my own kids. I wanted them to hear from somebody else. And eventually through breaking down the walls, Joe just kind of kept coming at me. Hey, when are you available? What can I do? How can we make this work? And it has been a match made in heaven to an extent, in that I've really enjoyed the time that we've spent together. And the kids and the athletes that I deal with right now in this particular program are just a tremendous group of individuals. They really have different personalities, and they kind of keep me young at heart and keep me thinking about why I want to do this and what made me get into this. And that's an important piece in coaching altogether. From an administrative perspective, if you've lost that love of coaching, why do we do this? And these kids are really fun to be around, and I learned from them just as much as they learned from me. And it's been a great match for however many years we've been doing this. 3, 4, 5 years now.
With that, Joe, I know Scott just said learn, and there's many examples. Scott's obviously involved in the education program and stuff. How important is it to be a good teacher as well as a good coach, and a good teacher as well as knowing soccer, right? You can't just know soccer. You can't just know soccer, because you're not going to be a good coach. So what's more important to both? What would you say?
I think understanding how to be an educator, right? I think the skill, whatever skill it may be that you're teaching or coaching, is kind of second to the part of being an educator and understanding the audience that you're actually coaching. So, as I kept approaching Scott more and more, it really just made sense of him being an educator, him being an athletic director as well, knowing that, kids are going to go through different phases in childhood and development and now education as well. So as they start to transition from elementary school to middle school, junior high school to high school, it's ideal to have educators around so they can understand what's really going on in the day-to-day for that individual or for that child, and knowing that it's an important piece that yes, the skill of coaching or teaching a specific topic, but understanding what that child's actually going through. So I think the education piece is definitely very important, because you've heard it before. It's not always easy to go from a player to be a coach, as it is of just being an educator to a coach. So I think that transition was nice and smooth for us, and definitely very important bringing him on. Definitely provides more than what we have to offer right now. It's he's one of a couple that we have in our program that are educators. We have a couple school teachers, we have a guidance counselor, we have an athletic director. So I think from a club standpoint, we're really hitting it where we need to really help the kids grow and develop.
Awesome. So how many years is it you've been coaching with Doca currently, Scott?
Help me, Joe. 3 years, 4?
4.
4.
We're about 6 years old, saying, after our pilot year. So this is probably truly year 5, and you came on about 4 years ago.
Yep.
At a limited capacity, but about 3, a little bit more of a full-time, understanding what his schedule's like, and especially right now and what you're going through as an athletic director, rolling out in this climate of COVID. I can only imagine, and I understand what his availability becomes, and what his responsibilities are.
So with that, what you just mentioned, COVID, and you've been with the club for 4 years. Talk to me, Scott, about 2020 as a coach, as an educator.
About 2020.
How was it? Were the challenges? What was it like?
James, it was something that really opened my eyes. You try, especially as an athletic director, in particular as a coach, and even as a teacher, you don't try and predict the future, but you try and be prepared for what the future might hold. And I don't think there was anybody in and around this area or potentially in the world that was ready or prepared for what has come our way. And it's changed our way of life. It's changed our thinking. It's changed everything about us, from mental health to social emotional well-being to physical opportunities in terms of movement and stuff like that. And it's been very difficult, but at the same point in time, one of the things I don't like to do is sit there and dwell on things and focus on the negative aspect of things. And once this all started back in February, March, it was, what can we do to continue to move forward? How can we make this, and whether it be from the Doca perspective, from the AD perspective, from the school perspective, from just me being a human being, how can I continue to move forward, and what's next? And because there was so much downtime, it became an opportunity to go back almost to school on our own, and utilize the internet and videos and books and whatever else it might be to try and make ourselves a little bit better. How can I improve upon me as a person, as a coach, as a teacher, as an athletic director, and how can I learn from this situation? And then how can I continue to help the kids that are in the program? We went virtual for a bit of time, and it was a situation is, I don't want to sit here and just be someone who watches. How can I get the kids to be a little bit more dynamic? How can I get them to take stuff from all those teachings? And it was both from a school perspective and a coach perspective. And one of the things that I talk to my wife about this all the time, one of the things I attribute to a good teacher, a good coach, a good whatever, is reflecting upon the past and looking at what you think the kids got out of it. And when you have the ability to leave a session, even though it's virtual, just like we're doing right now, and sit there and say, you know what, I really think the kids got a lot out of it. And the program that I was working with, in particular with the '08 team on the girls side of things, we focused a lot on juggling. It's an individual technique that they can do on their own, and they can track it and stuff like that. And I had my own daughters at home here. We created poster boards for the girls that were in the program, counting up the number of juggles that they did every session that we met. And now all of a sudden they've got a record, and they can see the improvement from day one to day whatever it was. And they can see by the number of soccer balls or the number of juggles that they were able to do. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that shows the improvement. So now there's opportunity for the kids kids to kind of take ownership of what they're doing. And that's a big piece to everything moving forward. You know, we didn't want to be stagnant. We didn't want to sit around and just give the kids the time off. They're obviously not seeing their friends. They're not doing the sleepovers. They're not getting the in-person training sessions. Our games were limited at the time where we were fully shut down. And those are opportunities that we don't understand what it does to kids. And this was an opportunity to get with them and have a something for them to look forward to. You know, I couldn't tell you the amount of messages that would come through. Are we training tonight? What time are we training tonight? When is training? What are we doing? And that tells you right then and there that people are buying into what you're doing. They're looking for something to pique their interest and keep them going. And when we finally got back to the in-person stuff in the fall, we were playing games, I didn't feel like we were far behind. I didn't feel like it took us a long time to catch up. I felt like we kind of caught our stride early on in the season and continued to improve. And, you know, we kind of went through a microcosm of that same scenario here just recently with a quick pause by the governor. And then all of a sudden we get to come back, and we've had a couple of training sessions in person while we're indoors after that pause. And you know, Joe and I just had a session last night where it was, wow, these kids are starting to connect passes. They're moving the ball all over the place. And you're sitting there thinking, wow, we're not far off. This is good. And you can see the growth, and you can see the hunger. The group that I work with in particular, there's a large roster there, and they're hungry. They know the playing time is out there, and they want to do whatever they can. And they're working every minute of every day to try and get themselves better. And it's fun to be a part of. So we've kind of taken that COVID age, and while it's still here and we're still dealing with it, and trust me, I'm dealing with it on the school side of things all the time. From the Doca perspective, I just see us continuing to say, you know what, it's here. We know it's here. We don't want to sit here and downplay it, but at the same point in time, we have an opportunity to continue to grow. And I think they're hungry for that growth. So it's been a fun time, as much as it's been challenging.
Right. And I think that's something you just mentioned, right? It's about being we didn't know this was coming, but okay, it's here now. Let's be proactive and start setting things up rather than reactive. Let's not wait. And I think that's something that, Joe, you've done terrific. It's a testament to you and all the coaches. You put things in place where, whether it was digital or in person, okay, we may not be with our players right now, but what can we get from it? Maybe we can see the players in the comfort of their own home. So that's a benefit, because now I'm starting to understand the players a lot more, because I can see how they carry on and understand them in the comfort of their own home. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah.
Benefits off the soccer field?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's one thing that I learned from a coach that I was fortunate to work under for a period of time, and it wasn't even a soccer coach. It was actually a very, very good lacrosse coach, and his motto to his boys were always adapt, adjust, and overcome. And I think that was key to what we had to do here during this time. And you know, the kids definitely enjoyed the virtual. They were looking forward to it, whether it be a technical session or a fitness session. So it's good to see them back on the field now and how they overcome a lot of that. And, you know, Scott brought up a good point about the '08 group that we work with. And it's a super competitive group now. They saw a lot of success in the fall, which we were very fortunate to have a complete fall season. I think there was probably maybe one or two games we missed, and that was just the unfortunate reality of a travel ban with a group from Rhode Island that couldn't come play us. But that group saw a great deal of success where they didn't lose a match. I think they won 1-6, tied 2, and allowed 1 goal, scoring 40. I mean, it was something where seeing them last night and coming off the field, like they're figuring it out now. They're getting back to their stride. But I think there was a key element that they're super competitive, and that could have been lost during this time period. That could have been lost with the most recent shutdown, where they can come back and, hey, we're here, we're having fun again. And I think maybe that first session was fun and it got it out of them, but now they're like, yeah, let's go, let's compete, let's play. So it's good to see their mindset is really starting to shift, where they're looking to get back to, I guess you could say, some sort of normalcy, but we'll never know what normalcy is anymore. But they're adjusting and they're overcoming every day, and it's been really nice to see by not only the girls, but by the entire club.
Right. It's that. I mean, I know you just mentioned it, Scott. It's the hunger, right? And
Yes.
taking the positive from the situation. Maybe the positive is, well, these people haven't been able to be on the field, so now when they can come back, it's that passion and hunger. You don't know what you've got till it's gone, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah.
be cliche.
Yeah, I think that's really important. From the high school perspective, I'm starting to see some more far-reaching impacts with a lot of our kids, especially our athletes, in that lack of competition. We in our particular situation didn't get a chance to finish our fall season. We're still on pause with our winter stuff. We haven't been given the okay to start our winter yet. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from those high school kids where they're starting to miss that competition aspect. And, the one thing that I try to relay to them is try and keep that hunger inside of you, try and keep that fire burning so that when the opportunity does come, you're not going to go 0 to 100 because you're going to end up hurting yourself. But as long as that competitive fire continues to burn inside of you, then when competition does come back to us in some shape or form, we should be ready to go. We should be excited. We should be eager to get back onto a field, a court, whatever it might be. And that can allow those kids just that light at the end of the tunnel mentality where we're working our way through this and there is something positive for us at the end, because it's been extremely difficult for some high school age kids where if they were in high school last year, they didn't get a spring season. They might not have been able to finish their winter season. Their fall season was really kind of just a roadblock, if you will. It was one thing after another that we didn't really get to see a full season. And now the winter is condensed again. Nobody knows what the fall is. So while the younger kids and the girls in particular that we work with on that side of the program, they're almost deflected from stuff like that. They can keep themselves motivated and keep themselves going, almost insulated in a sense, until the point where they can start to compete again. So yeah, we got to keep hunger growing, and it helps.
Awesome. So, Scott, as a high school director, AD, what do you see the relationship is between academics and athletics? I know for me and Joe at Quinnipiac, right, it was drilled into us, you're a student athlete, right? Is it the same?
Definitely. It's hard to believe Joe was ever referred to as a student and an athlete all in one sentence, but I get it. It's so important, and today it's high school athletics is really about educationally based athletics, and it's ironic that I'm having that conversation right now while working in a premier program at the same point in time, because there is a divide between those two types of programs, and everybody wants their athletes at the same time. So the high school and the middle school coaches and stuff, they want their athletes there. The premier people want their athletes there, and you've got club sports, you got premier sports, you got AAU sports. They're all out there. But when you start to combine the academic piece into the world of sports, I think you touch upon a piece there that now we're trying to make a person whole. We're trying to give them an experience that's not just physical in nature, it's also mind and spirit in nature. And we want them to try and become a whole person. We talk about, my education in the world of physical education was about mind, body, and spirit. And some would say that's a Springfield College ism, if you will, but that's really a movement-based and physical education-based ism, in that we want to try and create the whole individual. And I think the impact that education has on a student as they grow up, it kind of shapes who they're going to be. And then you put in the other components once they start to figure out who they want to be as a person. And when the athletic piece comes into it and we combine the two, you can start to see kids start to take off. And that's an important piece. I think when you start talking about next level beyond high school, you get into the college piece as well. Those are all situations where if you're unable or unwilling to do the work in the classroom, well, then you're going to severely limit what your ability is beyond high school and beyond, the club really kind of, what's it for? What are you doing? So, if I can get kids to really focus and emphasize their work in the classroom, there's a time for that during the day to make sure that that's what they're really focused on, and then they can come out after that's done and focus on the athletic piece as well. And then we put those two together. You've got yourself a pretty well-rounded individual. I think it's super important for these kids moving forward.
With that in mind, Joe, I'm just thinking now, I'm thinking out loud. So we've got Scott and many educators as coaches, and then our players, Doca players, are going on to, I mean, our last podcast was with Teresa Durkee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're having people then go to college and not only excel on the field, but in the classroom. Have you set this up, Joe?
I'm sorry?
Is this your plan? Is it
Yeah,
like
it's definitely, of course it's my plan. It's something that I couldn't achieve, but no, I'm just kidding. I mean, I think that's one of our importance here. I like to say the three key things to the way that I want to see this club run and conducted is there's three important pieces in your life. It's family, academics, and then soccer or athletics. And if you're, if you're not getting it done in the classroom, then I don't want you at training until you can, because as we all know, at any given time, athletics can be taken away from you. So what do you have to fall back on? We hope that the education piece is something that you're doing well and excelling in. So you always have that. So yeah, we've been fortunate to have some very good players come out of the club that were very good students as well. And ideally, in the way that I foresee things, we're excited to have the coaches and the staff that are educators too, because they understand that importance as well. If we were just all soccer crazy, it's soccer all the time, then we'd have some challenges in helping kids get into the next levels.
right? And
Yeah, you also bring in the burnout factor and stuff like that. When people just focus on one thing for such a long period of time, you've got to have that diversity. Your brain needs it, your body needs it, and those are important pieces.
And you've touched on something else there, Scott. We're also very accommodating for those. We have some players that are fantastic athletes in other sports, and we don't want to take that away from them. They don't, at this age, we're a year-round soccer program, but we understand we have basketball players right now. I mean, I was fortunate to in my high school days to play basketball and soccer. At times, soccer always took preference over, and I'm sure my basketball coach didn't like that, but he understood. We try to be as accommodating as possible, especially during the down months. And we know we're not into a big season right now, but yeah, we want our players to be well-rounded, and we want them to try to pursue and excel at as many different things as they possibly can, and do their best and be honest with themselves about what they want to do. So I'm glad he brought that up, because I don't want, we're a year-round soccer program, but academics and athletics are very important for us.
And that's something you hear from all the top coaches all the time when they're reflecting on the top players. So the top coaches reflect on the top players. They always say, and it comes up so much, student of the game, right?
Definitely.
And I feel like that's how it crosses a lot of the time is you can take your education and your willingness to learn, and you can implement it in soccer as well, right? So there's key values that you will learn in the classroom, and if not just for the classroom.
Listen, knowledge is power, not to use another cliche, but the more knowledge that you can build up and that base that you can have, whether it's academically or not, even if it's just a student of a game, it's going to take you to places where I don't think other people who don't invest themselves will go. And we talk about that from a school perspective. The kids coming up from, say, the middle school into our feeder program at the high school, we wonder how much experience they actually have. And that's where Doca comes into play. These kids that are playing year round and getting that game experience, they're learning the game by playing the game. And the hope now is that they're learning the game by maybe seeing a little bit more. The Premier League's on TV all the time. So you have access to stuff that we might not have had when we were kids, right? How much exposure did we really have to overseas play and stuff like that? Not much at all. And now it's there, it's readily available. So now our kids are playing, our kids are doing, our kids are watching, our kids are seeing, and that's all. Hopefully you put all that stuff together and they're getting the knowledge that they need for the game experience. and that will make them a better player as well.
I think that was a good segue into us creating the Fantasy Premier League, right?
I
During the
was thinking about
time.
bringing it up.
I know. I apologize. I'm pretty high in the standings, Scott. I think James is on. Where are you, James, on that leaderboard?
I haven't seen him yet. Is he on the leaderboard?
So anyway, I tanked, completely tanked. I need to get back involved and look at my team. But yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned it, Joe, but it's the educational purpose behind that league, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, and I was with the O8s last week, Coach, and I know that you had a prior engagement, and I told the girls, hey, did anybody watch the women's match against Colombia? The girls were like, no. It's like, well, they have another match coming up. I'm like, are you guys watching matches? And then one of our players like, watching the Premier League. I got to see how my players are doing. I'm like, all right, fair enough. That's great. But how many of them would have done that if, during this climate that we're in and the time that we weren't together? I'm not sure many would be watching if we didn't kind of start up the Fantasy Premier League and had them invested a little bit more and figure out who players are. And I could say I had one girl who picked a team of players that, have never played a minute. They were reserve players because they had no understanding. But when they started seeing that, how come I'm not getting points? Well, let's look at your roster and spending a little time with them. Now they're kind of getting it. And, you talked about being a student of the game. We start to ask them, all right, identify what position you'll play. I know you play multiple positions, but pick one. Watch that player, see their movements, see how they position themselves defensively, see what type of runs they make, what supporting angles are they getting to. And so now they can pick up little cues that they might not have thought about before just sitting there watching a game waiting for a goal to be scored. So it's definitely been, I think it's been a bit impactful. It's good to see a lot of the players, especially on the girls' side, they've engaged a lot, and it's been nice, yeah.
So someone that's picking up a lot of points right now in the Fantasy Premier League did do last night is one of Scott's favourite Premier League players. Scott?
Trent Alexander-Arnold. Going to that.
Oh, here we go.
You'll go with.
James is from Liverpool, right? Yowzer.
Do you know what? Just as I was about to get the full Liverpool talk, I think Scott froze once again. Is he?
Am I back yet? I don't know.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, James. I obviously didn't know you were from. Well, I could have figured out you were from somewhere in that area. But my girls' team at the high school, we were planning this past fall. They were supposed to go out to Liverpool. Girls' soccer coach is a big Liverpool fan. He's been out numerous times. He out to scout the trip. We were going to take our girls' program. I was going to go with him over there, get some training sessions and overseas. I don't know if we were going to be able to catch Liverpool because we would have been there at the beginning of the Premier League season, but now, dates have changed. We may get the opportunity because we're pushing the trip off a little bit, but eventually we're going to get over there and hopefully we can get into onto maybe see a game. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a special place. So we're closing in. We're on about 3 minutes. This has been fantastic. I just checked the time now. Been so many great nuggets, and you were right, Joe. Scott can talk. But no, some great things. I want to end with this question, Scott, and it's a deep one. Answer as you will. What are your non-negotiables as a coach for your players?
He's only got 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure that I have an answer for it right away. I think it's not about non-negotiables. It's more about what my expectations are from the kids, and that's, I guess, first and foremost, that you want to be there. And that you want to invest yourself and you want to get better. There's so much about the game that can be taught. It's not just about showing up and playing. And we can have a supremely talented athlete, but there just might not be a connection. And the connection might not be with me as a coach. It might not be with their players, their teammates. And those are things that, we want to try and guard against. We want to make sure that everybody's there because they want to be there. And, Joe touched upon this a little bit earlier, and that's about family. And that's a big piece to me, in that anybody that comes into a program, regardless of what the program is, and You can talk about Lyman Memorial and you can talk about Doca Football Academy all you want, but the two opportunities truly are synonymous in that when you're a part of either one of those programs, you're part of a family, and everything that we do is for that family. And I think that's going to be the most important thing. So it's not about non-negotiables. It's not about, hey, if you can't do this, we don't want to be a part of it. It's about when you come in here, can you adapt? Can you understand what the program's all about and how we're trying to build not just individuals, but also the program as a whole, so that we can now achieve a level of success, wins and losses. That's an important piece, but also feel really good about who we are and as a player and as a person. And I think those are really, really important things, and probably the most important things for me as a coach.
Listening to that answer very quickly, what I liked about it was there's not many with Doca. There's not many don'ts. It's more can you.
Hmm.
I think that speaks volumes.
Definitely.
Fantastic talk. I really enjoyed that. Time flew. Any closing remarks, guys? Anything you'd like to say?
Scott, thank you. James, I'm glad to see you in a better mood today. Since our last conversation prior to the Liverpool Spurs match, you were really down in the dumps, but once you got on, you had a grin from ear to ear. I don't know that's because of Liverpool won or they beat Jose Mourinho. Either way, fair enough. Scott, thanks so much. I appreciate you hopping on, and it's always nice to have you speak your words of wisdom.
I don't know how much wisdom there is, but I appreciate the opportunity. This is fun. So anything I could do to help out and provide some type of perspective. My perspective's not always right, but I feel like it's something to live by, and I've had quite a bit of success with it. So I'd like to continue on as much as possible.
Great. There we go. Thank you, guys. Thank you.